Coming up today on the Nice Guys on Business.
I want this idea of excellence with character. So I call that inspire greatness, right? And that you have to inspire. By inspire means you have to breathe life into. So excellence can be defined many different ways. And what I want to define it as is this ability to live a glad to be here life. So the biggest thing that I want to, share with you on not just the core values. And by the way, we worked hard on these. They and like you said, they resonate. They should. One of the other core values: connect the heart and the head. That's a core value for us. So I want people to be able to connect the heart and the head.
I feel the need for the Nice Guys on Business podcast. Running a business is hard. Being a business leader is even harder. The Nice Guys bring in top industry pros to help your business prosper in a tough world. Get real advice from real people to get you real results today. Now it's time for the Nice Guys on Business. Here's your hosts, Doug Sandler and Strickland Bonner.
All right, Nice Guy community, today is the day. So today we actually legitimize us being nice guys on the Nice Guys on Business podcast, because I actually have a guest today that is truly that nice person. I had a chance to be a guest on his podcast. We're going to talk about that a little bit. We're also going to talk about some hidden secrets behind the original movie, the original making of the movie Top Gun, which is going to be kind of cool as well. So let me give you, instead of reading a long drawn out intro, I'm just going to give you highlights about today's guest, John Foley. And right there, that's the what do you call that? Is that your call? What do you
call the call sign? And here's the first clue: you don't get to pick it, and if you like it, it doesn't stick. So there you
okay,
go.
I got it. So John Foley. I'm very curious. Okay, so here are the highlights. So number one, keynote speaker to over 1,500 organizations worldwide. The one that for me that really was the attractor was Blue Angel lead solo pilot. How freaking awesome is that? High performance expert, best-selling author, gratitude guru, podcast host of the High Performance Zone. Welcome, John Foley, to the Nice Guys on Business podcast.
Hey, Doug, and your community. I'm glad to be here, man. And that saying, glad to be here, meant something very special to me when I was a Blue Angel. You mentioned that. But it means more to me today. And I'm sure we'll dive into what the essence of glad to be here means. But it's just great to be with the community, great to be with entrepreneurs, great to be with people who are making a difference in the world.
Well, thanks, man. And we sorry, I'm still dealing, as my community might have heard from me, for the last month, I'm still dealing with this freaking flu, COVID, whatever you call it. It wasn't COVID, it was just the flu, right? It was just a freaking horrible flu.
Wow.
Okay, so let's talk about this Gucci word for just a moment. So you say you don't get to pick it. It's assigned to you. So how did you get it?
Yeah, well, first off, all fighter pilots get call signs. And so there's a couple ways you can get them. Early on, it's just, maybe short for your nickname or your name, or, like my first one was Foles because my last name's Foley, right? But the really way you get it is do something stupid, right? And your teammates will remind you, right? So for me, it was kind of interesting. I was in Fallon, Nevada. That's where we filmed Top Gun, by the way, Top Gun 2, Top Gun Maverick. The first one was filmed in Miramar down there in San Diego. And I'm a student pilot. I'm going through strike training, and everything's going pretty well. So the instructors call the King's X. They say, "Hey, Friday night, let's go into Reno." So I'm thinking Reno. I'm young, I'm single. I'm like, let's go have a party time. I show up in what they call the bachelor officer quarters, which is where you just have a room. It's like a really cheesy hotel. I show up in the lobby, and I'm wearing a thin black leather tie. Okay. Now that wasn't even cool in the 80s, right? And all my teammates,
I think it might have been, but you're right.
Well, it might have been, but all my teammates are in jeans and t-shirts, and they looked at me like, what is that? And one guy says, that's Gucci. And I flinched. And the minute you flinch, they know, okay, you don't like it. Boom, it's going to stick. Now, it didn't help that I was living on a sailboat and driving an Alfa Romeo at the time too. So.
Oh my gosh. Well, that's a really good story. I want to talk about for a moment. Now, I didn't realize you were in the second one also, but talk to me about.
I wasn't in the second one. I just said that's where the filming was done.
Oh, I got you.
I actually did, the original filming only because I was in the right place at the right time. I mean, that's how life is, right? I happened to be on the aircraft carrier. It's called the Enterprise. We were off the coast of San Diego, doing what they call workups, which is you're basically training to go on deployment. And all of a sudden, I remember the skipper came in and said, "Hey, this Hollywood crew's going to come on board. They're filming a movie called Top Gun. Don't do anything special. Just be yourself." That was the briefing, right? Mm-hmm. And they did. They showed up and they were filming. And I would say it's reason that both movies are iconic in my mind is that a lot of the filming is, that's real stuff, right? It's not fake. And in the opening scene of the first movie, it starts with them on the aircraft carrier, right? The flight deck. And it's that iconic scene that they actually used again on the second movie, right? And it's just as you're taxiing up to the catapult, there's steam coming out of the catapult. They have this slow motion camera going of the troops, my teammates walking around the flight deck. You're not walking, but running. And then, as a pilot, you salute the catapult officer, they salute you back. And it wasn't just me, right? The cool part about this was that was our air wing. That's the filming we did. So all the scenes you saw over the water were really realistic, and we can unpack it a lot more if you want. But yeah, that's the association.
So tell me, I'm just curious. It's fascinating. Just to you look at these Blue Angel pilots and you watch them as they're doing their air shows and things, and their wings are so close together. The margin of error has got to be so minimal, like razor thin. But tell me, before we get to the formation, tell me about like taking off and landing off of a carrier. I mean, it's almost like you see this postage stamp size thing in the water, which is enormous. But when you're flying that fast, it's got to seem fair, really. And you got the tail hook that grabs all that stuff. That's real life, right?
Oh yeah, and it's intense and it's fun. Daytime, nighttime's scary, never changes, always scary. And if you're not scared, you're in the wrong place. But the bottom line is, that's the training ground for Blue Angels. And when we get into it, right? So, and there's a pecking order. You got to go through, certain training. And if you can get assigned jets, that's great. If you can get assigned a tactical jet, fighter attack, and get assigned on an aircraft carrier, that's kind of the epitome of challenge. I know when I was a kid and I wanted to fly jets, I thought, well, Air Force, because you just think jets, Air Force. Then I realized the Navy does the same thing off these little postage stamps, in the middle of the ocean. And guess what? That landing area, which when you really touch down, it's about 300 feet. But that landing area is moving away from you. And by the way, it's a boat. So therefore it's moving up and down, and it's bad weather. And, you got nowhere to go. If you don't land, when we call blue water ops, you have no options. And it's awesome. I mean, it really makes you, you got to learn yourself. You got to learn your training. But it's a lot of fun. The cat shots, you go from 0 to 200 miles per hour in 1.8 seconds. So you saw that in the movies, Tom Cruise's head is getting thumped as it goes off the end, but he's in the back seat. They just make it look cool, like he's in the front. But it's just fun as hell. Nighttime, the landings are way harder than the takeoffs. And we always like to say you want the same number of landings as takeoffs, which
pretty much makes sense.
Doesn't always happen, but that's the goal.
And you never had to hit that eject button, did you?
No, I came close. 3 times I wanted to. And all 3 times I was what they call inside the ejection envelope, which means it's actually not a button, it's a handle. It's between your legs, and or once on some jets like the F-14, it's over your face. And when you pull that, you're telling the ejection seat, which is all it is a rocket motor, to ignite and blow you out of the cockpit, right? Now there's a sequence though. By the time you pull it, it takes about, I think, 1.2 seconds. It fires some gas charges, which then ignite the rocket motor, which then, all these things kind of happen. And in the movie, Goose, the original movie, the canopy's supposed to go first, and then, and he hit it. And so there's a lot of sequences that have to happen. But the bottom line is I was inside that, or you could be inverted at like 50 feet. And if you pull the handle at that point, you just a bug, on the concrete. So there's certain things that where you can't. And all 3 times I survived, which, by the skin of my teeth, and you don't even know it. If I thought I was going to survive, I wouldn't have thought of ejecting. But it makes you, after doing all that stuff, which is just a blast, it makes ice cream taste a lot better.
It's amazing. I can't even think about anything that has happened that's real world comparison for me that would be that that close. I've never had any life-defying moments, or never saw my life flash before me, before my eyes. And I can only imagine what that does to a guy when it comes to puts perspective on things. Like you said, ice cream got to taste a lot better from then on. Your family, your friends, the people that are closest to you, the things that mean the most to you, that's really where things start to, where the rubber hits the road.
Well, it becomes vivid. That's the best word I would use. Life, the world is magical, right? And we get so, I guess, absorbed just to thinking it's normal. Like I'm sitting here in Sun Valley right now. I'm looking out, and I got these beautiful trees. I just went on a hike with my doggies, and you never want to take that for granted, but we do. Right? Every little thing in our life. So what it does is it refocuses you. But here, I'll be honest with you, you can lose that again. It's so easy to fall back into just things. But by the way, time does slow down, at least for me. They talk about time compression, and anyone who's been in that extremist situation, usually what happens is, and by the way, you can't plan this. Your mind takes over, and it feels like that time is slowing down, but I believe what's really happening is your mind is speeding up. You just become hyper aware of all the inputs, and we have the ability to understand, to bring in 65 times a second impressions. We just don't realize it, right? And so when things slow down like they do there, when you're about to die, at least you feel like it, it actually became a very calm place for me, because I actually thought I was going to be dead. And so, at that point, and it was one of them was about landing on the back of an aircraft carrier, I was going to blow up. And I've seen the movies, and it's a big fireball. And I thought to myself, well, okay, at least I'm going to go out with a bang. But here's what's kind of cool is in that process, this energy left my body, and I'm not a woo-woo kind of guy, but this energy left my body, and I'm looking down at the situation, fully expecting to blow up. And there was going to be no pain. I realized that at that second, there would be no pain. Now, when I landed and didn't blow up, which was an absolute shock to my system, and the tail hook actually grabbed the wire. And when that happens, it's dramatic, right? It lunges you forward. This energy comes back in my body very violently, by the way. And I'm scared shitless. I'm puking. I'm dry heaving. My legs are shaking like crazy. I mean, I'm like, holy shit. What was that? And then you taxi up to the bow, which is scary. And you go down and you say, put me up next night, and you got to go do it again. Yeah. My
God, can only imagine. And before we talk about your from that transitioning to your entrepreneurial journey in the what's called the real world, because I feel like you guys are superheroes, the ones that are taking off and landing on these aircraft carriers. For your service, amazing. Is so very proud of you. Just in the last couple of months since you and I have gotten to know each other, I've had a chance to, not just look into you as a guest, or me being a guest on your show, but to do a little background and, know the relationships that you have, and the amount of value that you place in the relationships to those that are around you. I want to talk about that stuff, but and your entrepreneurial journey as well. But the bigger question that comes to me is, it seems like, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but it seems like you are fearless. I don't understand how someone has what you have. I don't know how to get there mentally. Maybe can you share a little bit about how you get there to put yourself in a position to almost lose your life 3 times and still get up and do it again? Because I don't think you're a crazy person.
Oh, no, it's easy to kill yourself. What's hard is, and entrepreneurs know this, what's hard is to be on that edge. And it's a perfect metaphor for entrepreneurialism, right? But the bottom line is, first off, let's get to how we define fearless, right? Because I'm scared all the time. And I actually am aware that I'm scared, and I'm okay with being scared. To me, that just means, that you're aware, like the economy is going to change. Like, I'm driving a certain way, I'm risking, putting myself, if I'm flying at 500 miles per hour, 18 inches from my wingtip of another jet, I got to be on my A game. And so is my teammate. And we've got to have processes and systems in place. So it's actually a beautiful state to be in, but I wouldn't call it fearless. I titled my book Fearless Success, but if you read it, what it really means is I'm making mistakes all the time. I have a process to hopefully mitigate those. So risk mitigation is kind of important, right? It's an awareness. Number one, you have to be aware. You have to be aware of yourself. So self awareness is super critical. Got to be aware of the situation, the market, what you're dealing with. We call that situational awareness when you're flying a jet. And then, you also got to learn what I call the higher skills of, how to perform under pressure, right? We've all got a lot of pressure, going on. So a lot of it is a mental, I call it the glad to be here mindset. Mm-hmm. There's process and systems. They're absolutely critical. They're fundamental. When I talk to, the best sports teams in the world, like Nick Saban called me up and talked to Alabama, they've got a great process and great system. Let me tell you, and you're a great athlete, you show up, you have to adapt to the system. The system doesn't adapt to you, right? And I think that's true in companies. You want to have a culture. You want to have a way of scaling greatness. And so that's what I like to talk about. And it's for entrepreneurs, it's just, we're on that cutting edge. And anyhow, a lot of good metaphors.
So share a little bit about your journey. I want to hear about, the transition from Blue Angel life to the entrepreneurial world. Yeah. But I also want to talk about, just for a second, how there's a lot of guys that decided once they were Blue Angels, I'm sure, hey, I'm going to retire and that's going to be the end of my career. And I'm just going to collect whatever pension or check or whatever it is, or I don't even know what happens, financially. But you took a step to not only be a speaker, but a coach, which means that you have a process and a system in place for everything. And I know that probably comes more naturally to you because of how you flew with the Blue Angels, but maybe share a little bit about just that journey itself, if you would, for a moment.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, there is no one path. So most of the time, what works with the Blue Angels, remember the Blues are just part of the Navy, right? So typically the path there is fly jets off aircraft carriers. Then it's not enough just to be highly skilled. We actually look for instructors. I want to hire someone who, because your job on a Blue is not only to fly, but it's to teach your own replacement. So we have a huge training and mentoring program. So the coaching that you talked about, that's normal on the Blues. Mm-hmm. That's just what we do. Every high performer has a coach, right? And anyhow, the bottom line is that you go back to the real Navy. So when you are done with your tour, and it's only a 2 or 3 year tour, you rotate back to flying jets back off the aircraft carriers, but in a leadership role. So you're constantly moving up and out, kind of is the way we talk about it. So that's the normal path. At some point, yeah, you can choose to retire. Most guys actually go fly for the airlines because they love flying, and that's just an easy path, right? I had a different path though. I got this bug to be an entrepreneur, and I got to be honest with you, it wasn't something I planned. I mean, I'd been in big companies. The Navy's a big company, and I had learned, that process and thought, wow, okay, I'll get back in the civilian world, but I'll go join a big company. That just is the way I was thinking. And then I had the rare privilege to go to Stanford Business School, and that changed my whole outlook on life. I got exposed. It was in the late 90s. Silicon Valley was just hopping. And I'm looking around, and I'm the only military guy there at the time. And I look around and I go, holy cow, there's a whole nother world out here. And it's pretty exciting, which I knew nothing about, by the way. And so there was a pretty big leap of faith to transition into the entrepreneurial world. I actually couldn't even spell entrepreneur. I'm not sure I still can, but I liked it.
It's okay. When you are an entrepreneur, you don't have to worry about spelling it. Right. You hire somebody to spell it for you.
There you go. So anyhow, it was interesting. Stanford opened up a world I wasn't aware of. Lots of challenges. I started 2 companies. They both failed. Not because, we can get into that if you want, not because the idea wasn't good, the timing wasn't good. I started an aviation entertainment company on 9/11. I'm in New York when the jets hit the tower, and I was closing an equity deal with ESPN that day, which never closed for obvious reasons. And so you got to reinvent yourself. And as an entrepreneur, I think, that happened to me 3 times, and now I'm in my sweet spot. I'm just, the growth is there. We're learning, we're enjoying life. And now as I look back, I never planned it, but we're right where we need to be.
Well, I love your series of messages: lead through change, build high performance teams, evaluate belief levels, execute with high trust. I mean, a lot of the things that no matter what environment that you are in, you have to be either mold, shape, lead, follow, or get out of the way, one or the other. And you really have done a great job with taking this reinvention of the reinvention of the reinvention. I don't really think that you've failed. No, I don't think anybody fails. I think we all just learn lessons along the way that helps us to move on to whatever the next path that we're gonna start walking. Tell me just a little bit about if I'm looking to hire a keynote speaker or a high performance coach. I'm probably having an Olympian that I'm choosing from, a guy that's done it in corporate America. If I'm looking at a Blue Angel a guy that's been in Blue Angels, I'm choosing that guy every time, because while I love the Olympian and I love the guy that's done corporate world, I don't think that any of those choices puts life and death on the line. Yeah. I want somebody that lives or dies through the decisions that they make. So talk about that a little bit. And when it comes to the corporate world, living and dying by the decisions that you make, and maybe giving yourself the option of failing if you have to in the entrepreneurial world.
Oh, I love it. That's why it's such a good analogy to an entrepreneur, because we do live and die in our decisions. Now, what you want to build is that tolerance, right? Where again, you can make some mistakes, and I'm okay with making mistakes all the time, but I got to learn from, like you said, correct from it and grow. I've got a mantra: learn, grow, give. But I realized that I had the order wrong. It actually starts with giving. When you give, you learn. When you learn, you grow. So anyhow, but to answer, it's such a beautiful metaphor. And I didn't even realize this when I first, was flying. I had no idea. And then as I got out into the civilian world and the entrepreneurial world and started to get the rare privilege to work with some of the best companies in the world, or best entrepreneurs, even ones who don't have a company yet, but they got an idea, right? And the bottom line is, I started I just reversed engineered what worked on the blues, and it's so obvious to me, but it's basically, there's certain processes that matter, okay, but the mindset is even more important. So I remember sitting in a strategic management theory class at Stanford, and I'll sum it up to you in 30 seconds. It was vision, plan, execute, feedback loop. Okay. Every entrepreneur knows that. What's the vision? Come up with a plan, execute on the plan, hopefully have a feedback loop. By the way, it's the weakest link in most people. Mm-hmm. And so then I said, well, okay, that's fine. That's what the best do. And they just do a little better than others. But then I realized there was some nuances, and this is what's been cool, Doug, because I've been doing this now for 2 decades, right? So as you start to do this and worked with organizations, everything from technology, financial services, healthcare, sports, it really doesn't matter, because there is this red thread. And fundamentals matter, right? So you do need to have a cadence of execution. Every entrepreneur knows this. I call that the brief debrief, okay? Because in the military, now we do it though much different. And that's the interesting part. Everyone knows, I need to be prepared, all right? And I should debrief, I should learn from it, right? Most people just debrief when they lose, or it's a win-loss review, or, there's been something bad happens. Let's figure out why. And that's totally opposite of the Blue Angels. We debrief every day. Okay. Mm-hmm. We're constantly learning, and we're celebrating our victories, and we're growing. But to me, that's still process. The real entrepreneur understands not only vision, here's what they understand: beliefs. They know how to raise beliefs, both themselves, and this is what's really hard for most entrepreneurs. You get it. You know your vision incredibly well. You live and breathe it every single day. But how do you get commitment and buy-in from others with your vision, where they believe it just as well as you, right? That's a challenge. That's not easy. But when you do that, and then I think execution is a key. And I like to think of executing through, and you mentioned it, high trust. When you can build these high trust contracts, and to me, they're verbal and nonverbal, they're not your written SLAs kind of stuff. Then you get fast, you get decision-making, innovation, creativity, all these things can happen quickly.
So Gucci, you as an entrepreneur, you are, we always talk about staying in your zone of genius. And one of the things that you know how to do so well is just you execute like nobody's business. But I look at your schedule, or at least I look at the things that you have on your agenda. You're a podcast host. You've hosted, I don't even know, a couple hundred episodes or whatever of your show for the last couple of years. You've written a best-selling book that took you 10 years to write. You're an executive coach or a high-performance coach. You're someone that has the list goes on and on for the things that you do. Number one, how do you find time? And then the other thing is the other question that I have for you is, Talk to us about the importance of staying in that zone of genius. I know that you have, Sugar does a lot of things for you. I'm sure you have many other people on your team as well. How do you learn to stay in your zone of genius, and how do you manage your entire schedule? Because it seems like you're everywhere all the time.
Well, we've done the most time consuming is the keynote speeches I give, which I've done over 100 this year alone.
Wow.
Well, we're on track to do 156. And I'd say now 80% of those are live. So that requires me flying and being there. So, you're right. I mean, there's a lot, but I will say, number one, the first answer is team. Okay. You got to have a team. It's not just me. I mean, I have a huge, not huge team. I have a very tight, small team that does a huge amount of work. So that's good. And it allows me to focus on what I'm good at, your zone of genius, right? Now, as an entrepreneur, though, I do feel just like a lot of people, you get sucked out of that zone, right? Like my zone is this right here, just be an interview, right? I don't have a script. Okay. You're the one asking the questions. But I've done it enough times where I have an idea in my head what's helpful for others, right? And if I'm going to give the speech or if I'm going to run my podcast, I have an initial game plan, but I'm an open field runner, right? I'm gonna listen to you. I'm gonna go off of what you're saying, and it's okay. I love change, so I love adapting to change. We say on the Blue Angels, you brief a perfect air show, and the minute you get airborne, things change, right? So there's two things that have to go on here, and it's really beautiful. It's the preparation and the focus beforehand, which I take, and you're absolutely right. I mean, I learned it from my pilot days. I take extreme confidence and importance on that. I want to know that I'm walking into it, not just me. I have a logistics person, I have a marketing person, I got a salesperson. I'm going into every engagement knowing fully well, not only what I need to do, but what does the client need, right? Now that's what, and then when I'm on stage or doing this or coaching, I can be real and pivot, right? Now, I will tell you that the hardest part is staying there, right? As an entrepreneur, knowing what to block out and what to focus on. And, we know our business is better than anybody. So you typically, at least I do, at least when it comes to the idea of I jump in, right? Because what I've had to learn to do is get clear on expectations. Because we're usually pretty good vision builders, but then the next step is really clear. And that is, okay, what's within and outside of the guardrails? When do I know that I'm meeting expectations and when I'm not? And then, for me now, it's a beautiful place to be. We have more business than we can really deal with. So we're getting a little more selective, but even better than that, I'm hiring, I hired 2 Blue Angels now to work with me. My own boss works with me. Yeah,
man. Duplicate.
Yeah. So we are scaling, but we figured it out, right? Yeah. We know what's important first. Now we can scale.
Tell me a little bit about the glad to be here mentality that, this is something that I've heard over and over and over again from everybody on your team. And by the way, Sugar, who I've had the most exposure to on your team, is an amazing team member. He represents you extremely well. He is a great guy. He's a guy that, is open, honest, genuine, all of the things that I've discovered from you. So I don't know if you look for people like that or you train people into that role. It's almost like I don't know that you can train somebody to be as in touch as Sugar is. So just share a little bit about your team and maybe the glad to be here mentality.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, glad to be here is the secret sauce. And what do I mean by that? Is I didn't realize it on the Blue Angels. We would say glad to be here at the end of every debrief, your comments, right? And a lot of times it meant that I was just grateful to be alive, but usually it wasn't that. It was, and that's why life and death is a great teacher, because it's rare that that's true, even as a Blue Angel. We learn how to mitigate that. But when that is true, it makes you really focused. It's kind of cool, and so it's a good teacher. But the challenge is, can you take the same concepts that matter then to when it's not life and death? The answer is yes. It's totally up to you, totally. Right? And so that's what I've kind of been trying to do most of the time. And I guess the idea here is, with, teammates is, we do vet for that. I look for the glad to be here mindset. I'm not looking for skills. Skills are important, both in the Blue Angels. This is how we hired, and it's the way I hire today. Of course, you have to be competent. And so I am looking at that, but that's actually usually fairly easy to figure out. What I want to know what's in someone's heart, right? Yeah. I want to know, are you aligned on the mission? And first off, what is the mission, right? And that's harder to know sometimes, but we take time to figure that out. I take time to really try to get to know people. So if you do a good job hiring, and I don't always do that, I've made some mistakes, but once I realized that, man, you got to move on, because the glad to be here mindset is what's most important, right? And I'll give you one of our core values. The glad to be here mindset starts with this idea of whatever it takes. Okay. So we're going to do whatever it takes to have a great experience. Another one for us is an experience of a lifetime. We're going to give an experience of a lifetime to a client. And then we want to learn, grow, and give. I mentioned earlier, that happens to be one of our core values. This constant idea of continuous improvement, this thirst for change, this thirst for innovation, this thirst for creativity. These are all part of this mindset that allows excellence. And we like to inspire greatness. That's another one of our values, which means, hey, excellence with character, right? So to me, there's a combination of process with mindset. And that's the key, is you need both.
So much to know about you, and so much that I want to be able to share with my community. What haven't we talked about that I should be sharing with my community about what you do? And then I want to give you an opportunity to tell people how to get in touch with you, because I think, there's been many people. We've done 1,350 episodes with the Nice Guys on Business. Probably 900 to 1,000 of them have been interview episodes, and there are those 100 or so people that I have met out of the 900 plus that have actually, developed into some nice relationships. And then there's the smaller subset of those that you could say, man, I really want to align closer with that person. And you, for me, fit into that category. And I got to say, Gucci, I love the idea that it's because of you, but I love the idea that it's probably 80% you and 20% of those feelings, that vibe, and those people that you hang out with. Yes. But while most people can get to that 60 to 70%, very rare that anybody gets like, I know this guy, and not because I know you through movies, or I know you through your book or your podcast or anything. I know you because I am you. And nice. I feel like, give me a couple of your core values again, because as you said them, I started to get emotional about them, and glad to be here is absolutely the mentality that I want to have. But share just briefly, just a couple of those values again, because I just want to let them sit for a second for those in our community. Yeah,
absolutely. So first off, it's about giving first. I said, learn, grow, give, right, as a mantra. But one thing I've learned is, so our core value is give first, give often. Right?
Okay, so give first is a core. Give first, give often. That's great, and that is absolutely a value that is near and dear to me. I'm like, I want to show somebody more value than I'm pulling from that person, because I want them to feel like I'm not here just for what they can give to me. I want to give to them. Okay, so that's one. Yeah. Give me another.
And then whatever it takes. So if we are in a relationship, whatever it takes, we're going to do it for you. Right. Yep. And it doesn't matter what the contract says. We'll obviously look at
absolutely
that, whatever it takes to make it right. We want the idea. I want this idea of excellence with character. So I call that inspire greatness. Right. And that you have to inspire. And by inspire means you have to breathe life into. So excellence can be defined many different ways. And what I want to define it as is this ability to live a glad to be here life. So the biggest thing that I want to, I guess, share with you on not just the core values. And by the way, we worked hard on these. And like you said, they resonate. They should. One of the other core values, connect the heart and the head. That's a core value for us. So I want people to be able to connect the heart and the head with when we're talking. But it really, I would say to really tap into all of this is, yes, we have programs, we have processes, we've really reverse engineered how the best get better, really, and then how to scale that. And we will customize it to any organization, small, big, whatever, right? But I think the biggest thing I could leave your community with is this idea of giving, right? So what does giving mean? So every morning I set intentions, right? I have a morning routine, and I'm happy to go into that if you want. But one of the things I do is I do an intentional exercise bowing routine that also it's a combination of my Navy SEALs buddies that I trained with, yoga and Qigong. I've kind of combined that, right? And I can do this in 4 minutes. 7's better, but I can do it in 4 if I'm really busy. And I set intentions. And one of the intentions I always set every day is I am an angel of giving, right? So I say an angel because I want to appear to others as they need me, not as I need them, right? Mm-hmm. And so the idea there is, can I give? Can I give of, and I don't mean just money, okay? Can I give of my time? Like right here, we're both giving of our time to our community, right? Can I give of my resources? Okay, great. Can I give of my wisdom if I have any? Well, everyone's got wisdom. Can you give of that? Can you give your love? Right. And you're caring, right? So giving's super important to me. And here's one little technique, because I did this 10 years ago. I always wanted to give back, and I said, well, I'll wait till I make a lot of money and then I'll be able to give back. And you know what? It wasn't happening too fast, Doug. I mean, I was struggling, just like probably a lot of people listening to this, right? And so I said, you know what? I'm going to change my mindset. I'm going to start giving today. Mm-hmm. But here's what I did that made it easier. I said, I'm going to give a future revenue. So I don't feel guilty about the past, none of that crap. All I said is every new client that I get, 10% is going to go to charity. That's just the way it is. I'm just going to make that a thing. And then I realized I needed to process that to make it easy. So I set up a foundation and, my bookkeepers, because, I do have a team now, it's not like me trying to do all this stuff, right? So my bookkeepers know the minute a check comes in, 10% of that goes to the foundation, which, by the way, is a nonprofit foundation. I don't have access to that money anymore. Once you give it, it's there. Now, what I can do is give it away to different things. And so I started that about 10 years ago, right? And here's what's kind of cool, because it started very small, right? Today, now we have given to over 390 nonprofits around the world. Wow. In fact, I'm about to head to Nepal with a doctor friend of mine. He happens to be the chair at Stanford, and he's trying. His mission is to eradicate blindness, curable blindness in the world, right? And he's doing it. He and his partners are out there in Nepal. We're going. It's called the Himalayan Cataract Project. I've been with him before. I've watched him do 12 cornea transplants in the third world, and anyhow. My whole point is we not only give money, which to this date's well over $2 million, but we've actually impacted people's lives. And for $40, you can cure someone of blindness. Now, to me, that's a good day, right? That's how I measure myself.
Amazing. Well, Gucci, I so am inspired by you. I so appreciate your message and your inspiration that you're not only providing to me, but to those in my community. What's the next thing for you? Like, you can only attain, greatness to a certain height. Then you go on to sainthood. Where are you going? Yeah. Where are you going, man?
Well, I mean, if sainthood's, if that means that I'm taking care of others, I'm cool with that, right? Yeah. But the idea there is we actually just had an offsite, my team. So we put into practice exactly what we do, right? So we had our strategic offsite, and we're looking at some of those questions, right? So we have a 1 and 3 year plan. Bottom line is, with the company side, is we continually want to impact more people and at a bigger rate. So what we're doing is, while our initial revenues is through a keynote, so we inspire people there, we now are working on a really pretty cutting edge way to follow up and activate it, right? Like even this podcast, this is awesome, right? So hopefully we inspire someone, but really, what are you going to do with it, right? And so, the activation is important. And so I've got my teammates, ex-Blue Angels, probably the best. I got the trainer of the Blue Angels, right? And so we're going to train others in how to do that, right? But what really inspires me, and so we'll have, we'll grow and we'll have a system in place to do that. We're going to write a book on Glad to Be Here, because my first book, Fearless Success, has Glad to Be Here in there, but it's not at the depth that I want to get out into the world. And bottom line is, it's getting this message out to more people and having a greater impact. So that could be many different things. We're going to be doing it in a give back way, though. It won't be just through businesses. Right now, we work with entrepreneurs, we work with businesses, and I want to impact the whole world. Individuals too.
Well, and I'm looking forward to you taking over the world. It sounds like you are doing it, and I want to be on that journey, watching you every step of the way and cheering you on, Gucci. I'm so excited for you, and I so appreciate again you sharing your message on our show today. What if somebody in our community wanted more information, wanted to reach out to you just to figure out, hey, what do you do and how do you do it and how can it impact my life? What can they do?
Yeah, well, that's actually many different ways. Let's go to one. Just go to the website, johnfoleyinc.com. johnfoleyinc.com, and just become part of our community. Right now, we have a performance community. It's free. Sign up and just become part of it. And then you'll see right now the website is really geared more to our corporate audience, right? Which is keynotes and trainings and all the things we do. But what you'll see is that we actually are moving to both that and the personal mastery side that'll help individuals. And with that, LinkedIn is great, all the social channels. But at the end of the day, I don't care if you do any of that. I think live the glad to be her message. Just tell somebody why you're grateful and pass that on. That's more important to me.
Yeah. I share a lot with those on our team and those that have been in my life in the past is that, catch somebody in the act of doing something right as opposed to the act of doing something wrong. People so very much appreciate it. Another interesting quote from my book on chapter 1. Gary Shandling said, if you don't think nice guys finish first, you don't know where the finish line is. So start examining where you really are. And Gucci, appreciate you again. And thanks for being on the show today.
Well, absolutely. I love your title, by the way, nice guys. Okay. That's the key is we can be generous. We can be grateful. We can be nice. But it doesn't mean it's easy, right? You got operational excellence in there. And at the end of the day, though, when you combine them, that's where the magic happens. So I just want to say thank you, Doug. It's a privilege to be on your show. And thanks everybody out there who's making a difference in people's lives.
Hey, we got to figure out, if I was a Blue Angel Flyer, which I don't think I would qualify for, but if I was a Blue Angel Flyer, what would my call sign, what would my name be? I mean, could I go by DJ Doug or do I need something else? No, because I like that. So it's got to be something I don't like, right? Is that what you said?
Well, no, see, you can like it. You just can't act like you like it initially, right? All right. So here's the bottom line. It just has to fit. So DJ works because, that kind of fits. And at the end of the day, you don't get to pick it. So I would say just keep being yourself. Keep throwing it out there, and someone's gonna label you. Like Sugar gave you DJ, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
So someone's gonna come up with it, and when it's gonna fit, and when it fits.
I think me telling him 30 years as a bar mitzvah DJ, I think that probably was the thing that probably set him up. So I appreciate it. Thank you, Gucci, for being on the show. Thanks.
Glad to be here.
Hey, nice guy community, never underestimate the power of nice. Again, special thanks to John Gucci Foley. All of his information, including access to all of his programs and his website, will be right there in the show notes. Steve O'Brien, go ahead and take us out of here.
For the nice guys on business, and in accordance with my court-mandated community service, I'm Steve O'Brien. Only 27 more voiceovers to go, and then maybe they'll let me leave the state and take this ankle bracelet off.